Every year in the US, your chance of dying in a motor accident is around 1 in 8,000. Yet, people still get in their cars every day and say, "Not me." Every year, your chance of dying by falling down stairs is around 1 in 135,000. Yet people still use them and think to themselves, "Not me." The odds of you getting hit by lightning each year is around 1 in 9 million. Yet people still walk in the rain and presume, "Not me." So why is it when someone pays $2 to buy into a large prize pool where you try predict 6 numbers, in which you have a 1 in over 300 million chance, people say, "Who knows?" It gets even more laughable when you see how people choose their numbers. I've seen people compile various numbers from their own and their loved ones' birthdays or parts of their own phone number. It's ridiculous and even narcissistic to think the world revolves around them so much that the universe will pull out winning numbers based on their own anecdotal lives. Personally, I have my own system, and it's nothing to do with significant numbers in my own life. They are from beyond. It's something I learned called numerology, a type of divination revolving around numbers. Various countries have their own versions of how they apply numbers to a greater power, but I found one that worked for me and stuck to it. The problem is, I never saw great success in it. You see, I work out my probabilities through a variety of calculations, from running words into numeric values, then putting them through a few set formulas depending on their purpose. But the probability of the outcome is usually only slightly better than someone just picking their lucky numbers. It's hard to explain its validity. The best I can describe is that usually the numbers that are wrong tend to be not too far off from the correct number, or a misvariant, like a 14 instead of a 41. This was the start of a rabbit hole I fell deep into in my spare time. I eventually found a way to increase my odds. A calculation from certain words and formulas that can refine the outcome into a more narrow field of likelihood. The ancients used this to predict dates for favorable battles or perfect times to execute an event. But it needs something, a price to be paid. Life. It sounded ridiculous when I first read about it, so I decided to test it. I input that I was going to give up 1 year of my lifespan and ran it through a calculation to give me lottery numbers. I bought my ticket and waited. I checked the next day, and to my shock, I won. Not the full jackpot, but I had a match on 3 numbers and the mega ball, which netted me $200. A few of the other numbers weren't too far off either. I was ecstatic at first, but this burst of happiness was very short-lived when I realized that I had essentially given a year of my life for $200. But it showed me that this had potential. Still, the idea scared me, so for the longest time, I left it as an experimental phase in my life. From then on, I lived my life, and it was horrible. No matter how hard I tried, I never hit a point in my life where I was truly happy. I struggled to make any real connections in life, and work was a droning waste of time. It was during one of those bland days, wasting my time, when I overheard some co-workers talking about the upcoming $1.6 billion jackpot, when I remembered the strange experiment from before. Sure, I lost a year of my life for $200, but now I was wasting my time for a pittance of a wage. Time I will never get back. It got me thinking, what if I could give up a large portion of my life, time that I felt would be wasted on work, win the jackpot, and live the rest of my life in a blaze of glory. The idea sparked inspiration in me, because to me, what was my other option? To live life working at a menial job until I retire, by then having saved enough money to do a few fun things, but would have been too old to enjoy any of it? My insane idea sounded much more bearable than my current sane route in life. I looked up my old research and saw an alternate formula, one that lets me trade a percent of my lifespan for a percent of probability success. So, I could trade 25% of the rest of my life for a 1 in 4 chance. I could trade 50% of the rest of my life for a 50-50 chance. But these sounded too risky for me. I didn't want to throw away a good portion of my life to just have the same odds as winning a coin flip. I wanted to get it right first time. So, I came to the final idea of increasing my odds to a percent that would almost guarantee my success. I would trade 90% of my life for a whopping 9 out of 10 chance of winning, odds which sat heavily in my favour. After working it out, it made sense to me. I was 25, so even if I just lived to the average lifespan of 75, that meant I had 50 years left on this earth. So 10% of that would be 5 years. 5 years to do everything I wanted to do in life. In my head, I was ready to fit several lifetimes of fun in those 5 short years. Even after deductions and taxes, what was left from the jackpot would more than suffice to fund my ideas. Hell, even if I hit 5 numbers in the megaplier, I would have $3 million to play with. Or just 5 numbers and ride out with $1 million. With the chances of 90%, I would be hard-pressed to come out with a loss. I took my pen to paper, scribbling out the instructions from my book and inputting my personal values in. As soon as I lifted my pen at the end, I felt a large part of my being leave. And suddenly, I felt very empty. I looked around, and for a moment, the world looked a lot more grey. I looked past it though, because I was already planning how I'd fill the rest of my now short life with the most insane years anyone had ever lived before. There's a serene excitedness to knowing I had little years to live, whilst having the means to do what I wanted within what was left. So many people are sat here with decades of their life left, but choose to do nothing, with the deluded comfort of thinking they'll always have time. Such a lie when you put yourself within the parameters of the odds of dying younger than you'd expect. Within likelihood, every day could essentially be your last. Yet, people don't live life with nearly enough enthusiasm as they should before this epiphany is realized. And by the time one contemplates their own mortality, it's often too late to really take advantage of it, as it's often realized very late in life. But, like how most people think they're better than the average driver, despite that being a contradictory statistic, or how girls think they're not like most girls, or guys who think they're not like most guys, people never truly think of themselves as a negative statistic. I confidently jotted the 7 numbers down and purchased my ticket. That night, I could barely sleep, a mix of excitement and nervousness switching around in my head. The next day, I got up in a haze, nervous to check the results. I flicked on the TV, and immediately the news was covering the story of how someone finally won the jackpot. My heart jumped. After weeks of no one winning, and suddenly now someone won. This had to be me, I thought. I pulled out my phone and looked up the winning numbers. 28, 62, 65, 70, Megaball 5, Megaplier 3. My heart jumped more. These all looked eerily familiar. I was sure these were the numbers I'd put on. With shaking hands, I pulled my ticket out my wallet. I unfolded the crumpled paper and slowly read the numbers. 27, 61, 64, 69, Megaball 4, Megaplier 2. All my numbers lined up perfectly, but every single digit was one lower. The calculation wasn't wrong. They were 90% accurate. I hope I have a good next few years.